Hi everybody, thanks for joining us on this edition of Wheels of Field. I'm Andy Lightbody, Rocky Mountain Television, and what I'm about to tell you may actually surprise you if it doesn't shock you. Quit putting air in your tires, and there's a reason for it. Joining us is Steve Landy from Precision Automotive right here in Gunnison. And Steve, what did I just tell them to do? Quit putting air in their tires? Why?
Well, we've been putting nitrogen in tires for about a year now, and we've been seeing some really good benefits from it, Andy. We're seeing that the tire pressure monitors are staying off a lot more on cars that have the tire pressure monitors, and it was mandated in 2008, so pretty much everything from 2008 on has them, and a lot of earlier cars also had them. So, and the weather extremes we have here, where you might have 50 degrees of variance in temperature
in one day.
Those tire pressure monitors don't like that very much, and a lot of times you'll drive the car home with the tire pressure monitor off, and the next morning when it sets out in the cold, or even it doesn't have to be that cold, your light's on. So the nitrogen in the tires will it varies a lot less than it does with plain air in the tires, and so you don't get that light coming on all the time.
Nitrogen is not new. In fact, we've seen it being used by NASCAR race car drivers, military aircraft, some commercial airlines, a variety of different motorsports and things like that. As we know, in the air that we breathe, 78% of the ambient air is nitrogen, 21% is oxygen. The rest is made up of other gases. Mm-hmm. What makes nitrogen stay in my tires longer than just plain old air?
Nitrogen has larger molecules than plain air does, so it doesn't permeate out through the tires as much as plain air does. So it's probably 3 to 4 times less leakage with nitrogen.
We've done tire stuff before, and we said you can lose like 2 to 3 pounds of pressure, in a given month, or even more often than that. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me that this nitrogen is not going to
leak out as fast.
Doesn't leak out as fast.
I mean, I won't say that it doesn't leak out at all, but we've had some instances where we put nitrogen in a tire a year later. They may have lost a couple pounds. So it's
and
really.
And if that same tire was sitting there full of air, it'd be way down.
It would have lost considerably more than that.
It would
yes.
Way down.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, some people say, well, if I use nitrogen, I'm going to get better mileage. That's really not the case, but it somewhat is, because of the fact that if you're running on an underinflated tire, you are causing stress and strain on your tire, your suspension system, your response is sluggish. Your gas mileage is going to suffer on an underinflated tire, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, and we're busy. We don't always check the tires as much as we should, and if the tire pressure gets down 5 pounds, that could take maybe 5% out of your 5 to 10% out of your fuel mileage.
Wow.
So keeping that air pressure where it's supposed to be is very important.
Okay, now let's talk about you and what you guys do. You've got it available. Do I have to come in and buy brand new tires?
No.
Or can I use my old tires?
You can use your old tires. It takes about a half hour to do the process. It runs around $40 if we're not changing the tires. If we're putting new tires on, it's like $30. And it's a lifetime fill. So if you had a flat,
say that again. That's a lifetime. That's not every time I come in. If I had.
It's a lifetime of that tire. I mean, we're not going to cover every set of tires, but yeah, for that latest set of tires, it's a lifetime of those tires.
Okay.
If you had a tire repair done someplace that didn't have nitrogen, which there's not that many places that do, you bring it back.
But it is becoming more popular, right?
It is becoming more popular. It's true. But you bring it into us, and we'll re-nitrogen it for no charge.
I'll be darned.
So,
okay. All right. And you said it's kind of a self-adjusting process. I mean, your machine will do it. What needs to be done? I mean, I don't need to bring in tires and the wheels separately, drain the air out or whatever, do I?
The machine we have is a pretty high-tech machine, and it actually purges the air out and adds nitrogen. Keeps doing this process until it reaches the correct amount of nitrogen. It wants to see about 95% nitrogen in the tires, and so once it reaches that point, the machine basically beeps to say it's finished, and you take the hoses off the tires. All 4 tires are done at one time.
Simultaneously.
It's a very quick.
So this is a nitrogen generator,
It's a
right?
nitrogen generator. That's exactly right. Yep.
Okay. As we wrap this up, and if people want more information, my first question is: am I going to notice a difference in the ride, or does the tire not really know?
I'd say no. You're probably not going to notice a difference in the ride. But the benefits, I say the biggest benefit I see in the thing is it's easier on the tire. You don't get the deterioration of the carcass because of the oxygen in the tire.
Oxygen in tires are enemies in
Actually
essence.
deteriorates the interior of the tire.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's better on that. The tire pressure monitors, it also is easier on those because you don't have the oxygen there deteriorating the monitor itself. And just the fact it keeps the tire pressure monitor light off a lot more is in itself is really worth doing it.
Kind of a cheap lifetime insurance policy, isn't it?
Yes, it's great.
Yeah,
it does
it
work
really
well.
is.
Yep.
And you've got it here, and no appointment is necessary, I don't think. Or
Well, you know,
it might be a good idea,
it'd be best
just
to
because
call.
you don't know what's on the docket that
It's
day.
best to call, but yeah,
In about 30 minutes?
Takes about 30 minutes to do the job, and you know, we'll get it all taken care of here.
Well, you know, like they say, where the rubber meets the road, it sounds to me like today's modern technology means you better get some nitrogen. Get on down to see Steve Landry here at the Precision Automotive Group. You know, and obviously there are some benefits. Thanks for joining us, everybody, on this edition of Wheels of Field.